No, Atomic Heart is not the Soviet-set Bioshock that the trailer suggested it could be. In that sense, my 4 hours of playtime with Atomic Heart were a stark example of expectation clashing against reality. There is no interest in fully simulating its linear spaces to heighten world immersion. You can't smash through windows, circumvent doors sealed shut, or engineer intuitive approaches to mission objectives. There is a defined critical path, and it wants you to follow it. When Atomic Heart does branch into more open-ended areas, spaces to explore, as you're awaiting assignment from genius scientist Dmitry Shezhinov, there's little to see beyond shooting galleries of organic and robotic enemy variants. Test sites provide some respite, with these small puzzle boxes distracting from a distinct lack of environmental storytelling in the walled valley. Polymer powers let you control the elements, though they don't appear to combine as fluidly as Bioshock's plasmids. Consider this an expectation reset then, because there's plenty to Atomic Heart that does show promise. Atomic Heart cut through my disdain for boss battles in first-person shooters. Typically, the second I see an unfamiliar health bar unfurl across my screen, my heart sinks as I prepare to outflank unwieldy attack patterns, hunt for glowy weak points, and sacrifice my hard-earned ammunition at the altar of an almighty bullet sponge that stands before me. But hot damn did Atomic Heart get my adrenaline flowing. Trapped in a circular area with what is essentially an Omnidroid from The Incredibles, the ensuing battle pushed me to fight frenetically to survive, and I loved every minute of it. The enemy is relentless, chewing up the environment as it encircles me, kicking dirt and debris up into the air as I'm attempting to desperately reload an otherwise shattering Kalashnikov rifle. A burst of frost from the polymer glove here, a crackle of electricity from the railgun there, jump twice to avoid the fire rings burning through the air, whisper profanities as I accidentally consume my last Neuromed capsule while searching for the dodge button. It's enthralling, visually all-consuming, and speaks to the potential of Atomic Heart when it's firing on all cylinders. It doesn't hurt that it looks freaking phenomenal too. There's a spectacle to the boss battle, something which is reflected all throughout Atomic Heart's presentation. Set in the Soviet Union on an alternative timeline where Russia emerges from World War II victorious, using its standing on the world stage to invest in advanced robotics and a collective consciousness. Environments are dense with elaborate detail, and this is a world you'll want to spend time in, even if I did lament the lack of agency I had while doing so. One question that I haven't been able to shake from my mind is whether Atomic Heart will afford us the opportunity to explore its spaces without an ever-present threat of labouring melee combat. Through the earliest hours of the game, where I descend into a Soviet research facility in search of a rogue scientist, there's a considerable focus on swinging hatches and axes. Ammunition is scarce, which is a shame because the shotgun and assault rifles I was able to sample feel weighty and fun to wield. I found melee combat to be slow and ponderous, however, a gradual trading of light and heavy attacks in sequence with an aggressor until one of our bodies hits the floor. The closest analogue I can draw is to imagine a less intuitive version of the melee combat system present in something like Dying Light 2. This area to the game really suffers in close quarters. If an enemy pushes you against a wall, or you get stuck in the environment, or if you can't dodge from a lumbering attack, or you can't hit a heavy attack back to stagger your foe, there's little you can do sometimes but wait for death. And given that the checkpointing in Atomic Heart leaves little to be desired, it did drag the pace a bit. Dying Light 2 also comes to mind during lengthy navigation puzzles, where I was pushed to clamber between ledges and platforms to progress. These sections weren't bad, but there's a slight stickiness to the movement in Atomic Heart that makes these areas less appealing than they would be in something like Dying Light 2 or Half-Life 2. But to be fair to Atomic Heart, there's a chance that melee will improve over time. There's a really fun array of weapons to craft, should you come across the relevant recipe. They each come with imaginative effects. For example, a club that fires off whirling saw blades in lieu of a heavy attack. It's worth focusing on the weapons vendor for a second. A malfunctioning vending machine with a sultry robot voice. The vendor is so audibly horny for both my resources and my attention that I was glad to be wearing headphones. If you live in a shared house or with your parents, expect to have some uncomfortable conversations should you make any attempt to craft consumables or upgrade the polymer glove. You will want to upgrade that glove too, because wielding the powers is certainly fun. I'm excited to see how this aspect of the game will expand. For abilities such as Shock, Frostbite, Polymer Throw, Polymer Shield, and Telekinesis, each have sizable skill trees to invest in alongside standard character attributes. These combine well enough, particularly when using Telekinesis to raise multiple threats off the ground, and pump what little ammunition I have into their floating bodies. However, even after jumping hours into a sample game of larger pool of unlocks, I didn't necessarily see all that much potential in the powers combining as fluidly with each other or environmental hazards, at least when compared to games like Bioshock. Atomic Heart wasn't what I was expecting it to be, but that isn't necessarily a bad thing. It may have the look of a video game infused with immersive sim DNA, it's more of a traditional first-person shooter. something that could emerge from Machine Games or ID Software, albeit without the polish those studios are known for delivering. So what is it that you most like the look of in Atomic Heart? Let us know in the comments below.